Last episode we built the exception backbone, and at the very end one handler caught a validation error. Today we build the thing that triggers it. DTO stands for data transfer object, but the name undersells it. A DTO is a boundary. On the way in, it's the shape that you will accept from the outside world, and the place you enforce your rules before that data touches anything important. On the way out, it is the shape you will expose and the place you decide what the outside world is allowed to see. Here is the rule that matters. Your API should never speak directly in entities. Your database user has a password hash, failed login counters, lockout timestamps. If you hand that object straight back in a response, you leak all of it. DTOs are how you keep your database shape and your public API contract as two separate things. So you can change one without breaking the other and never expose a field by accident. Today, 7 request DTOs, 3 response DTOs. Let's build them. So in DTO, we already have API response, and there is one more DTO that we require. So let's do that. Now this is going to be a big class for sure. Now why do we need this? Let's first talk about that. So if you don't know about DTOs and anything, so DTO is basically a data transfer object. Simple. Basically we use it for a good practice, as in a good architecture, and it is something that you use to transfer. Let's suppose if you have a response and a request, and if you want to convert these in between accordingly, like whatever your application requires, that comes under DTO. Now this class AuthDtos, this will contain all 10 request and response objects. So we will have register request, we will have login request, refresh token request, verify email request, auth response, user response, etc, etc. Now each request DTO has bean validation annotations, so bad input is rejected before hitting the service. So this is going to be a big class for sure. Now let's break down what we will have inside this class. We will have a class structure with Lombok annotations, validation annotations. Each DTO, actually what it represents in your authorization flow, and design decisions like why this is strong, right? All right, so inside this class, we will have a static class, register request. So this class will have a private string username, private string email, private string password, and private string full name. Now we need to do a lot of validations on these. So how do you do that? First of all, these variables needs to have getters, setters, etc, etc, and for that we already know what annotation to use, so we will use data here. Now for username, we don't want it to be blank, so not blank. And if someone still provides a blank, then you can provide this message that username is required. This is a must. Then the size of the username. So I want minimum count as 3, max as 30. Now in case if it falls short for that size, then you can print this message: username must be 3 to 30 characters. Now one more validation is your pattern validation, as in a regex pattern. So regex is going to be, it can have alphanumeric, so A to Z, A to Z, and numeric 0 to 9, and it can have a dot and underscore. Do I have multiple? Okay, all right. And then this username can only contain letters, numbers, dots, and underscore. I think this is how Instagram behaves. All right, so we are done with username. For email, we will have kind of same thing, but we will need not blank again. Here we will say email is required, and then email validation, which is going to have message. So this basically checks if it has at symbol, or you can say at the rate symbol, and .com, google.com, something like that, right? So that it validates that it is a valid email or not. So invalid email format. Now here again we will have not blank. So here we will say password is required, and then we will have again size and pattern conditions. So copy paste. Size is going to be minimum as 8, maximum whatever you like. So let me remove this. And message password must be at least 8 characters. All right. What is this? Okay. Now for pattern, again this is going to bit complicated. So password must contain uppercase. Let me say this first so that you understand what we are going to do. Password must contain not letters but uppercase, lowercase. It depends how many you want, but it needs at least one digit and special character. All right, now let me put this in a next line, and let me remove this. So what do we need? Like I said, it can be alphanumeric again. Okay, so it looks complicated, but let me give you a simple introduction. So this means, so each bracket enclosing is different, right? So this means that at least one lowercase, right? At least once is your this, and then lowercase is this. Now again, at least one uppercase. All right, then again at least one digit, and then at least one special character, and these only special character, not anything else. Then you can allow these characters, so these are the allowed characters, and plus dollar means you can repeat it any number of times you want, right? So this enforces strong password policy. Now for full name, we are not going to have much, rather just not blank, and let's do size as well. Full name is required, and max let's do 100, and no need for message here. All right, so we are done with register request. Similarly, we will have login request. So copy paste. For login, we need only two things, email and password. So let's remove this and this. Now for email is required. We already did password setting thing, so we don't need this pattern and size. We already have the password set in the database, right? So email is required, invalid password is required, and we are good. Now let's copy this again. What we will have refresh token request. Here we don't need password or email. Here we will have refresh token only, and we can say refresh token is required, and let's remove this. Now we will have verify email, and here we will have email. All right, and for verify email request, we also need to verify OTP. So let's copy this line, and here we will say OTP is required, OTP, and size is going to be min as 6, max as 6, and message is going to be OTP must be 6 digits, and we are good. Now we will have resend OTP request. I'm going to cover each and everything here. So resend OTP request. It feels like I have forgotten to type. Okay, so here we will only have email, we don't need OTP. So yeah, and what else? Now password. So forgot password and reset email password. So let's copy this. Forgot password request, and this is going to be reset password request. Now for forgot password, you only need email and nothing else. So let's remove everything. All right, now for reset password, you need email, OTP, and then new password. So let's do new password. Let's keep everything here. I think this is going to be same. We don't need full name, remove this. We need email, we need OTP. So let me remove this and fetch OTP from here, and we are good. Now we are done with request DTOs. Now we need response DTOs. And luckily we only need these three response DTOs. We need AuthResponse, we need UserResponse, and MessageResponse. This is going to be java.time, and we are good to go. Now this AuthResponse, this has data and builder annotation. Now you might be wondering that why again builder? So builder here is used because many optional fields and we want clean construction, that's why. And the purpose of AuthResponse is simple to basically this is to return after each login, register or refresh. Same goes for user response. So we have builder again for the very same reason, and this is important because this does not expose password, internal fields, and it is a good security practice. Now coming to message response, so this is because the OTP sent, password reset success, generic messages. For that we have to have this message response DTO. Now just to reiterate, where are we using and where are we going to use these DTO response? So message response is a success message, and it is going to be used by your RESTful endpoints like register and saying registration successful, logout successful, verify email, resend OTP, forgot password, reset password, stuff like that. AuthResponse is going to be used by two endpoints like your login or refresh. User response is going to be again used in two places, nested inside every auth response. So auth response will use user response, and this is going to directly return by your get me endpoint, which we will see later. Before we move on, let's step back and look at why this file is shaped the way it is. Because every choice in here was on purpose. Decision 1. Request and responses are different kinds of object, so they carry different annotations. As you can see here, RegisterRequest is just data plus validation. And AuthResponse was data and builder and not a single validation annotation. That is not inconsistency, it is intent. Requests come from outside world, so they are where we don't trust anything and we validate hard. Responses we build ourselves on the server, so there is nothing to validate, but there is a lot to assemble, which is why they get builder annotation. Direction of travel decides the annotations. Decision 2. The response DTOs exist, so we never return an entity. This is the one that matters most. Next episode, our user entity gets a password hash, a failed login counter, a lockout timestamp. If a login endpoint returned that user directly, all of it ships to the browser. User response is a deliberately small object, ID, username, email, name, role, verified, created. The fields we left out are not an oversight. Leaving them out is the feature. The DTO is the guarantee that a sensitive field cannot leak because it was never in the response class to begin with. Decision 3. The messages are the API contract, not just error text. Every message on every annotation Like OTP must be 6 digits, password must contain uppercase, lowercase digit and special character. This is what a front-end developer actually sees when a request fails. That is why they read like sentence, not quotes. And they only work because of what we built in episode 3. The validation fails, Spring throws. Our global exception handler collects these exact strings and returns them as a clean validation error. The DTO writes the rule and the message. The handler delivers it. 2 episodes, 1 contract. Decision 4. 1 container class, so the whole contract is 1 file. 10 DTOs, 1 AuthDtos.java. Open 1 file and you can read the entire shape of Auth API. Every input, every output, top to bottom, and that is the point. So this file is not just data holders, it is the input rules, the output guarantees, and the human readable contract. The entire boundary of our Auth API in one place. The only thing missing is the switch that turns the validation on, and that is your valid annotation in the controller, which is what we will cover in episode 8. Everything else is already here. Now, recap. We have our full API contract now on both sides, 7 request DTOs that enforce every rule before bad data gets in with messages that flow straight to our error handler. 3 response DTOs that decide exactly what the world sees and just as importantly what it does not. Our public API and our database are now 2 separate things, and that is a decision we will never regret. Next episode, entities and repositories. We finally built the user and refresh token classes that map to real database tables and the flyway migration that creates them. That is where these DTOs get something to map to and where the app actually starts talking to Postgre. Code is in the repository, link is in the description. See you in episode 5.